Hold on to your tokes, folks, because things just got interesting between the US and Canada. Remember those two countries everyone always forgets are right next to each other? Well, they're back in the news and it involves a road trip, some hefty tolls, and enough political drama to make your head spin. It all started when Canada decided to, politely inconvenience their southern neighbors. They essentially threw a wrench in the old Alaska road trip by imposing tolls on anyone trying to reach the last frontier through Canadian soil. It's like finding out you have to pay a fee every time you walk through your friend's living room to get to your own bathroom. Not ideal. And why did Canada decide to build a metaphorical toll booth on the road to Alaska? Well, let's just say it involves a certain orange-hued former reality TV star turned politician. Buckle up, Buttercup, because this is where things get juicy. The Canadian government, in a move that surprised many, decided to implement these tolls as a direct response to certain trade policies and tariffs imposed by the US. These policies had been causing quite a stir, affecting everything from lumber to dairy products, and Canada decided it was time to take a stand. The tolls, while seemingly minor, were a symbolic gesture. A way for Canada to say, "We're not going to take this lying down." For American travelers, especially those planning their great Alaskan adventures, this meant recalculating routes and budgets. Suddenly, what was once a straightforward journey became a bit more complicated and a lot more expensive. News outlets on both sides of the border had a field day, with pundits and analysts weighing in on the implications of this move. Diplomatic efforts were ramped up, with both countries trying to find a middle ground and ease the tensions. In the end, whether you're a fan of road trips or just a curious observer of international relations, this great Canadian roadblock is a fascinating chapter in the ongoing saga between these two neighboring nations. You see, it all goes back to the days of the Trump administration. During his tenure, President Trump made several bold moves on the international trade front, many of which were aimed at protecting American industries. One of the most controversial actions was the imposition of tariffs on a variety of goods imported from Canada. These tariffs were intended to level the playing field for American manufacturers, but they had some unintended consequences. Remember those tariffs he slapped on Canadian goods? They were part of a broader strategy to renegotiate trade deals and bring more manufacturing jobs back to the United States. However, these tariffs didn't sit well with our neighbors to the north. Yeah, those didn't go over too well with Canada. The Canadian government and its citizens were understandably upset. They saw these tariffs as an unfair attack on their economy, and they were determined to respond. They tried playing nice at first, engaging in diplomatic talks and negotiations to try and resolve the issue. But when those tariffs stuck around longer than a bad smell, Canada decided it was time for some payback. Enter the tolls. British Columbia, the Canadian province that just so happens to be the gateway to Alaska by road, decided to implement these tolls on all commerce headed towards the last frontier. This move was strategic, targeting a critical supply route for goods traveling to and from Alaska. It was a classic case of, you hit me with tariffs, I hit you with tolls. The tolls were designed to be a direct response to the economic pressure that the tariffs had placed on Canadian businesses. The message was clear. You want to play hardball with trade? Canada was ready to show that they could play that game too. The tolls were not just a financial burden, they were a statement of resilience and defiance. Two can play at that game. The tolls led to a series of back-and-forth measures between the two countries, each trying to outdo the other in this high-stakes game of economic chess. Of course, things weren't going to end there. The trade tensions escalated, affecting not just the two countries involved but also their trading partners and the global market. This is international politics, after all. The ripple effects of these trade disputes were felt far and wide, influencing international relations and economic policies around the world. It's never a simple game of tit for tat. The complexities of international trade and politics mean that every action has a reaction, and the consequences can be far-reaching and long-lasting. When news of these tolls reached the ears of former President Trump, it was as if someone had lit a fuse on a powder keg. Let's just say he wasn't too thrilled. His reaction was immediate and explosive, a classic Trumpian outburst. In fact, he reacted the way he reacts to pretty much everything, with all the grace and subtlety of a toddler denied a juice box. His face turned a shade of red that could rival a ripe tomato, and his gestures became increasingly animated. He took to his favorite platform, no, not Twitter, that's gone, remember? To publicly condemn the tolls. This time, he chose a different social media outlet to voice his displeasure. Calling them unfriendly and unfair, he didn't hold back. His words were sharp, his tone accusatory, and his message clear. He was not happy. He accused Canada of trying to punish Alaska and demanded the tolls be dropped immediately. His rhetoric was fiery, painting Canada as the villain in this international drama. Because when has demanding things ever backfired for him? His confidence was unshaken, his stance unyielding. Of course, Canada wasn't going to back down that easily. They had their own reasons and their own pride to consider. They'd already tried the diplomatic route and all they got were tariffs in return. The Canadian government had learned from past experiences and was prepared for a showdown. This time, they were ready to stand their ground. The stakes were high, and they were not about to be bullied into submission. Even if it meant facing the wrath of the Donald, they were resolute. The stage was set for a clash of titans with neither side willing to give an inch. Leading the charge for Canada was British Columbia Premier, David Eby. He wasn't about to let Trump push him around. Eby defended the tolls, arguing that they were a necessary response to protect his province's interests. He even went so far as to accuse Trump of wanting to annex Canada, which, let's be honest, wouldn't be that surprising. Remember when Trump wanted to buy Greenland? Yeah, this tracks. Eby made it clear that Canada wouldn't be bullied, especially not by a man who thought a Sharpie could redraw hurricane paths. The message from Eby was clear. Canada is willing to play tough, even if it ruffles some feathers south of the border. And with that, the Great Canadian Roadblock Saga was officially underway. Now let's talk specifics. What exactly do these tolls entail? Well, initially they were only supposed to apply to commercial trucks. But then someone, probably after a particularly strongly worded tweet from a certain someone, decided to extend the tolls to all vehicles, including those driven by regular folks just trying to reach Alaska. As for the actual cost of these tolls, well, that's still a bit of a mystery. The specific rates haven't been publicly released, which, let's be honest, just adds to the intrigue. One thing's for sure though, these tolls are here to stay until those pesky US tariffs are lifted. It's a bold move by Canada, and one that's sure to have a ripple effect on both sides of the border. But just how big will those ripples be? While the tolls might be a win for Canada in this international game of trade chess, they're not great news for everyone. Alaskans in particular are feeling the squeeze. See, a significant portion of goods and supplies that make their way to Alaska do so by road through Canada. And while it's true that most goods reach Alaska by sea or air, those tolls still add up. The cost of transporting goods to Alaska is going up, and you know what that means? You guessed it. Higher prices for everyday items in the last frontier. So, while Alaskans might not be directly paying these tolls, they're definitely feeling the impact in their wallets. And as we all know, when wallets start feeling lighter, people tend to get a little grumpy. This whole toll booth debacle has left a rather unpleasant aftertaste in the mouths of both Canadians and Americans. The already strained trade relationship between the two countries, which, let's be honest, has been on shaky ground for a while now, has taken another hit. It's a classic case of we're friends, but not that kind of friends. Sure, Canada and the US share a border, a love of hockey, although let's be real, Canada's got that one in the bag, and a penchant for saying "ay," but when it comes to trade, all bets are off. This latest spat has only served to highlight the cracks in the relationship, proving that even the friendliest of neighbors can have their differences. Despite the backlash from Trump and some grumbling from Alaskans, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Premier Eby are standing firm. They've made it clear that the tolls aren't going anywhere until those US tariffs are lifted. Trudeau, in his usual diplomatic fashion, has reiterated Canada's commitment to free and fair trade, emphasizing the need for dialogue and cooperation between the two countries. Eby, on the other hand, has remained resolute in his stance, arguing that Canada must be prepared to stand up for its interests, even if it means taking unconventional measures. The message from both leaders is clear: Canada won't be bullied, and they're willing to play the long game to prove it. So, what does this all mean for the future of the US-Canada relationship? Well, it's not exactly sunshine and roses right now. The Great Canadian Roadblock has highlighted the fragility of the relationship and the lingering tensions that remain from the Trump era. While Trudeau has expressed hope for improved relations, it remains to be seen whether the US will reciprocate. For now, the tolls remain in place, a constant reminder of the trade dispute that continues to divide these North American neighbors. One thing's for sure, this saga is far from over. Stay tuned, folks, because things are about to get even more interesting.